All right, welcome back. This is for the week of April 13th through the 17th, I think. This is your first video. We are now getting into surface area. This is what all the area we've been doing has been leading up to. So we did composite area last week, and it's really important because it ties into surface area by we're still adding all of these figures together. It's done a little differently in surface area because I do give you a formula, but you do need to know that composite area is taking a bunch of shapes, adding them together, which is what surface area is too. So we're first going to start off with prisms. Remember, your prisms are figures that have a set of congruent and parallel bases. They're the same shape, same size bases. Everything else may be different, and we name them based off of those bases. So just a little fill in the blank. The surface area of and we're dealing with prism, so your fill in the blank is prism, is the sum of the area of all of its faces. So remember, a face of a 3D figure is just one of the flat sides. It can be a square, rectangle, trapezoid. You'll see many different options. Remember, since we are in 3D figures, I do not expect you to draw the figures. I do expect you to still work out your work, but when I'm looking at it, I'm not going to be seeing if you drew the rectangular prism or the trapezoidal prism, just the work. We do have two types of surface area. The first one is total, and the second one is lateral. Usually you do lateral first. For prisms and cubes, I'm only having you do total surface area. That's because you have to look at the net for lateral surface area, and I don't really want to look at that. I don't want you having to decide what the base is. So your formula for total surface area of rectangular prisms and cubes, this is only for those two, is 2LW. And in this case, L stands for length, and W is width. Plus 2LH. So again, that L is still length. That's why I made it the same color. But the H is now height. And at the very end, plus 2WH. Again, those W's are the same. It's width. And that H is height. So looking at it as a whole, it's 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH. What's really important with rectangular prisms and cubes is that L, W, and H necessarily don't matter which are which because of the shape of them, but you need to stay consistent. You need to make sure you're not labeling two of the same lengths as a length and a width. It may be 9 and 9, but because they're across from each other, they would both be either a length, they'd both be a width, or both be the height. Alright, so example 1, I give you a rectangular prism. And I have a couple of measurements here for you. I have 7, 3, 2 9s, and another 3. So I first need to look, and I need to see where all these measurements are. So when I look, I have 7 up here at the top. And remember, these are rectangles in this one. So the side across from 7 is also 7. And then remember, the faces across from each other measure the same length. So these two sides at the bottom are also 7. Now I have 3 here, and I need to remember again that the side across from the one labeled is also 3, and then I drop down to the face below, and these two sides are also 3. So that second 3 inches that is labeled is not another measurement. And then finally, I have this 9 labeled. So across from it, that side would also be 9, and then I drop to the face behind it. And these two sides are also 9. So because I had 2 9s labeled does not mean that either my length, width, and height are all 9. That just means one of those measurements is 9. So I'm given 3 measurements. I'm given 7, I'm given 3, and I'm given 9. And I have 3 measurements I need in my formula. So I'm just going to put 7 as my length, 3 as my width, and 9 as my height. So in my formula, remember, it is 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH. So I'm going to do first is fill in all of the numbers I have. So 2 times my length is 7, my width is 3, plus 2 times my length again is 7, my height is 9, plus 2 times my width is 3, and my height is 9. So 7 times 3 gives me 21, so 2 times 21, plus 7 times 9 gives me 63, plus 2 times 3 times 9 gives me 27. You can skip this step if you want and just plug it onto your calculator and get one number. I'm breaking it down step by step for this first one, just so you can see how it would be. 2 times 21 would give us 42, plus 2 times 63 should be 126, plus 2 times 27 should give us 54. So you have one more step to simplify this. You want to add all three together. So 42 plus 126 plus 54. And that gives us that the total surface area of this rectangular prism is 222. So example 2 is a cube, and that means that every face is made up of a square. So every side measurement would be 9. Your cubes are the easiest because your length, width, and height are all the same measurement. So all of these are 9. So again, our formula 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH. So everything is just going to be 9. 2 times 9 times 9 plus 2 times 9 times 9 plus 2 times 9 times 9. So these all simplify to 2 times 81 plus 2 times 81 plus 2 times 81. When I multiply 81 by 2, I get 162. So 162, add it to itself 3 times. And when I do that, I end up with my total surface area as 486. Alright, so example 3 is a square prism. This one is a little different because there's not 3 different types or 3 different kinds of numbers labeled on the diagram. So we really have to look at the shapes given here. So when I look, remember it's a square prism, so the base is the square. And when I look, the measurements are 6 by 6. And then I look at the prism part and I have a height of 2. So I'm going to use my base for the length and the width. So length times width would give me 6 and 6. And then for my height, I'm going to use that other measurement and put it as 2. So in my formula, 2LW plus 2LH plus 2WH, I have 2 times, and you have 6 times 6, plus 2 times my L is 6, my height is 2, plus 2 times my W is 6, my height is 2. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify this. 2 times 36 plus 2 times 12 plus 2 times 12. So 2 times 36 does give me 72, plus that 2 times 12 gives me 24, and then another 24 for that last part. Now I'm going to take it all, add it together, and when I do that, I find out that my total surface area of my square prism is 120. Alright, so example 4 is a rectangular prism that has square faces. So again, you have to look at the base of the rectangle because that is in the name. So when I look at my rectangle, I have 10 by 6. So that means my length and my width are going to come from there. I'm going to call my length 6 and my width 10. It really doesn't matter. Either one works. So that means that last measurement is going to come from the height of my square. So my height is 6. So I am going to show you where all these numbers get plugged into your formula, but then I'm just going to plug it into my calculator and give you the answer. If you have any issues, make sure you send me a question on Remind or Google Classroom and I can explain it a little more in depth. So we have 2 times the length times the width plus 2 times the length times the height, and then finally 2 times the width times the height. So 10 times 6. So once you either work this out by hand or plug it into your calculator, you should find that your total surface area is equal to 312. Alright, so we did just cover rectangular prisms in cubes, but we do have other prisms, and that's why I've broken it into 2 sections in this video. So if you want to stop for today and call it good, you can do all other prisms tomorrow as well. I'm going to keep going in this one video though. So remember this, all other prisms are other prisms with different bases other than rectangles and cubes, such as trapezoids, triangles, pentagons, octagons, not octagons, stuff like that, that is not a rectangle or a square. So since we are going to deal with lateral and total surface area here, I did kind of break it down to talk about it a little bit more. The two types are first lateral, and that is the area of the faces that are not bases. So all the areas that are not included in the name. And the total area is area of all the faces. So you're going to add the bases to the lateral. So we're going to find the lateral first. Then to find total, we find the area of the bases and basically add that into the lateral. So then you have your lateral formula, which is h times p. That h is really important. It's not just height, it's the height between the bases. So we're going to look at the two bases and we're going to take the height that basically connects them. And the p stands for, this p stands for the perimeter of the base. So we're going to find the perimeter of the base and then multiply it by the height between the two bases. And then your total area formula, remember, we take that lateral, which is HP, and now we're going to add to it the area of the bases. So you have 2 times uppercase B, and that's because, remember, there are two bases. So we're going to find the area of one, and then just multiply it by 2 to give it the area of both bases. So I'm going to go ahead and write the lateral area formula first. Remember, that is H times P. That H is the height between the bases, and the P is the perimeter of the base. So the first thing when you have these is we first need to look and identify our base. So remember, your bases are from the name. I tell you it's a triangular prism. So if I look here, I know my bases are the two triangles in the drawing. Because remember, there has to be 2 of them. They have to be the same size, same shape. So my bases are these right triangles. I know the height of the triangle is 6. The bottom leg of the triangle is 8. And if you look on the side or the base across from it, I find out my hypotenuse is 10. So I can go ahead and I can find out little p. Remember, that is the perimeter of your base. And perimeter, you just take all of the sides and add it up together. So 10 plus 6 plus 8. 10 plus 6 gives me 16. Plus 8 gives me 24. So I know my P, my perimeter of the base, is 24. I now need to find the height between the bases, and all that is basically the side, the line connecting my two bases. So when I look, I go to the top of my triangle or the bottom, it doesn't matter, they're both the same length, and I see that my H for my formula is actually going to be 5. Alright, so for my formula, my lateral area is equal to, my H is 5 times my perimeter, which is 24. I go ahead and plug that into my calculator. 5 times 24 gives me my lateral area as 120. Alright, so we still need to find the total surface area, so I'm just going to call it just surface area. And remember, that formula is HP, which was the lateral, plus 2 times the area of the bases. So remember, your base is a triangle, 6, 8, and 10. Remember, the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So my base here is 8 times my height, which is 6, divided by 2. 8 times 6 is 48, divided by 2 is 24. So I know the area of my bases is 24. I'm going to now call it big B since it goes in the surface area formula. So plugging everything in, I already have the HP, the lateral, and I found that to be 120. So 120 plus 2 times the area of my base, which was 24. I simplify this as 120 plus 48. And when I do that, I should get 168 as my total surface area. So on your assignment, sometimes I ask for the lateral surface area, sometimes I ask for the total, so make sure you're paying attention. If I ask for both, you do have to do both. But remember, the last step is all you really have to do in total surface area if you've already done the lateral. Alright, so example 2, I did give you a trapezoidal prism. And so remember, from the name trapezoidal, that tells us the bases are trapezoids. I'm going to go ahead and write the formula. So lateral area, remember, is that H, the height between the bases, times P, the perimeter of the bases. And your total surface area, we take that lateral and we add to it the area of the bases. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight my bases here or outline them. Remember, it's the trapezoids. So there's one in front and then there's one in back as well. I need to find my perimeter of my trapezoid, so I'm going to go ahead and draw the base out here so we can see it. I know that bottom base is 11. It's flipped upside down in the picture. I know one of the sides is 7. The other one also seems to be 7 because they're congruent. And that top base is 4. I've also been given the height of my trapezoid, and it's 6.1. So to find my perimeter, my little p, I take all the side lengths. So 7 plus 4 plus 7 plus 11. I add them together. 7 plus 4 gives me 11. 11 plus 7 is 18. 18 plus 11 gives me 29. So my perimeter is 29. I now need to look at the side that connects the two bases. That's going to be my height between the two bases. And that ends up being 8. So I now plug it into my formula. My lateral area is 8 times my P, which is 29. So my lateral area, plug it in the calculator, is 8 times 29, which gives you 232. So remember, this is just the lateral area. It does not include those bases for the total. Now for total surface area, I already have that HP, so I'm not going to work it out. That's our lateral area. I do need to find the area of my base. And since this is a trapezoid, remember, that is base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2. And all of that is times the height. So I have it drawn out to the left of my formula. My base 1 is 4 plus 11 base 2 divided by 2 times my height, which is 6.1 here. 4 plus 11 gives me 15 over 2, still times that 6.1, and then 15 divided by 2 gives me 7.5 times 6.1. So now you can go ahead and plug this into your calculator. It'll give you another decimal answer. So the last step is to plug everything in. I found HP, lateral surface area, to be 232 plus 2 times the area of the base, which is what I just found. It's 13.6. I'm going to go ahead and simplify that last part. 13.6 times 2 gives me 27.2. And so then when you plug this into your calculator, you get your total surface area as 259.2. So this is, remember, a trapezoidal prism. Your first step is to look at the shape of the base. Then you want to find your lateral surface area. Look at the perimeter, find the perimeter of the bases. Then you want to find the height that connects them, and that gives you your lateral. Now for total surface area, remember, we take that lateral that we've already found. Then you find the area of one of the bases. Since they're the same, it'll be the same area. Multiply it by 2 and add it back to the lateral, and it'll give you your total. Example 3 is a pentagonal prism. So when I look at my figure, I want to find the two pentagons. So I went ahead and outlined them in red here. So your lateral area still is going to be the height between the bases times the perimeter of the base. So when I look at my base, which is a pentagon, hopefully you can draw them better than me. It does tell me that it is a regular pentagon, so all the sides are the same shape. If I look at the top, I see the bottom of the pentagon is 6, so that means all of these sides are 6. So far, perimeter, we have been taking all the sides, so I'm going to just add them all together. There's 5 of them to add, and when I do that, I end up with 30. Remember, since this is regular, I could have taken the length of one side, multiplied it by the number of sides, and that'll also give me the perimeter, which is still 30. Now when I look at the two bases, the side connecting them is measuring as 7, so I know my height between the bases is 7. When I plug everything into the lateral area formula, I get 7 times 30. And then of course when you plug this into your calculator, you should get 210 as your lateral surface area. Now for our total surface area is that lateral plus 2 times the area of the base. I first need to find the area of the base. This is a regular polygon. And remember, the area of regular polygons, we take the apothem times the perimeter of the shape and divide it by 2. In this example, I gave you the apothem already, and I tell you it is 4.1. I've already found the perimeter of this pentagon as well, so I take my apothem, 4.1. I multiply it by that 30, which is the perimeter we found, and we're still going to divide it by 2. When I do 4.1 times 30, I get 123 divided by 2. So my area of the base is 61.5. Now I'm going to go in for that total surface area. I take my lateral, which was 210, plus 2 times the area of the base, which is 61.5. When I plug this in, I get 210 plus 2 times 61.5 gives me 123. And your last step is to add them both together to find that your total surface area is 333. If you have questions, you need to make sure you ask because this is not going to be going away. Example 4 is a hexagonal prism. So that means my bases are these hexagons. They are regular hexagons. So there's one on the top and one on the bottom. So I did draw the base off to the side. Hopefully if you draw it, it looks a little better. And I'm first going to find my lateral, which remember is the height between the bases times the perimeter of the base. So my perimeter is equal to, I know the side length is 8, and since it's regular, there are 6 sides. So I'm just going to multiply 8 by 6 and find my perimeter to be 48. Remember, you can add all those sides together if you still need to, if you don't understand the regular polygon. And when I look over at my two bases, they are connected by a side length, which is 9. So I can plug into my formula. Lateral surface area is 9 times 48. So 9 times 48 gives me 432. I know that lateral surface area is 432. Remember, lateral surface area would be all of these faces, not including the pentagon. So like if I was to wrap it with paper around it and not include the top or the bottom, that's what the area would be. And the last part is to find the total surface area, which is that lateral, so 432 plus 2 times the area of the base. Since this is a regular polygon, my area is the apothem times the perimeter divided by 2. My apothem here is 6.9 times my perimeter, which is 48, divided by 2. On the top, 6.9 times 48 gives me 331.2 divided by 2. So I find the area of my base, my hexagon, to be 165.6. So finishing out that surface area formula, I get 432 plus 2 times 165.6. When I multiply 165.6 times 2, I end up with 331.2. And my last step is just to add that 432. So my total surface area is 763.2. So examples 5 and 6, what I'm going to do is I am simply going to give you the final answer of the lateral and surface area. I expect you to find the rest of it. This is really good practice if you don't know what you're doing, if you still don't understand it. Remember, if you are not understanding what I am doing, you need to join my tutorials. I have them Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. So examples 5 and 6, I'm going to go ahead and write what the lateral surface area is and what the total surface area is. You're required to do the rest of the steps. Alright, so example 5, you should find your lateral surface area to be 220 and your total surface area to be 638. Remember, if you did not get that, you need to send me a text or remind, a question on Google Classroom, something like that, so we can get it situated. Alright, and for your example 6, your triangular prism, you should find your lateral surface area as 48, your total surface area as 60. You do have a Google Slides assignment that you need to do. Remember, you're going to type only the answers in the Google Slide, and you're going to submit pictures of your work. Remember, if you do have questions, you need to join my tutorials or send a question on Remind or Google Classroom.